It's the season of storms and winds, and so I feel it's time for us to sing Eternal Father, Strong to Save. Welcome to our second virtual hymn of 2022, the most famous and much loved classic maritime hymn, Eternal Father, Strong to Save. And an especially warm welcome to those joining us for the first time. Before I say more, please check that you are watching the correct video. There is one each for soprano, alto, tenor and bass, and one for all the instrument players. These videos contain everything you need to know, including your guide track to sing or play along to, so if you're not watching the correct one, go back to the playlist and select another. This one is for tenor singers. This powerful hymn has become strongly associated with maritime peril, a big feature of 19th century international life, and it's often been adopted for national occasions, especially ones involving the Navy in many countries. The words are by William Whiting, who grew up near the sea and once survived a violent storm which nearly sank the ship he was travelling on. Inspirationally, this hymn was connected with the tune Melita by the great Victorian hymn tune composer John Bacchus Dykes, so named because it was an old name for Malta, where in the Acts of the Apostles it records that the Apostle Paul experienced a shipwreck. This hymn found its way into the immensely influential Hymns Ancient and Modern from its 1861 launch edition onwards, and the tune was written specially for it. Whiting late to revise the hymn, and this new version was included in the 1906 English hymnal, and this is the version we have here, as it is the one that Whiting ultimately preferred. However, the earlier version remained in wide circulation, particularly within the hymn's ancient and modern tradition, and in the USA, and so some of you may be more familiar with that, and you may notice a few differences in the words. We're going to give this hymn our special treatment and make what I hope will be a powerful and moving sound. The second verse will be sung by the gentleman in 4-part harmony, using our cunning trick that will be well known to some of you, about which I will give more details in a moment. Verse 3 will be sung by the ladies in 4-part harmony by the same method. And in both verses, everybody and all instruments join in the 2-line refrain that ends every verse. Now, before we go into detail on these points, here are a few words of advice on how to record yourself. As always, if you've done this many times and are very familiar with it, please skip this section and just do your best to minimize echo and any background noises or rumbles, whether they're electronic or real. This video will display the music and play a guide track of everything you need to sing. If you want to use a paper score, and in particular if you're an instrument player and you need a transposed part, these are all available in the Dropbox folder, and I included a link to it in the email. If you haven't got it, drop me an email and I will send you the link. And I can also send you any other combination of clef, part or transposition that you need if you have a different instrument, which I'd love to hear. My email address is at the end of this video. Listen to this video on headphones and record yourself on your smartphone or your computer. We don't need video, just audio. Singers, when you breathe in, especially at the start of each verse, try and do so as noiselessly as possible. Try starting your breath a little earlier and slower than you might otherwise do. And please do your very best to avoid background noises. Don't record in a room that is very echoey, if you can avoid it, and try and avoid getting an electronic hum on the recording. Keep your microphone or phone, if you are using your phone, well away from any other electrical devices. And lastly, do please make sure we can't hear the guide track in the background. We only want to hear your voice or instrument. Now, if anything goes wrong when you're some way into this piece, it's absolutely not necessary to re-record the whole thing. Just keep going, don't break tempo, don't stop the recording, and rejoin at the next verse. Then, when you've completed everything on the guide track, just record the verse that went wrong, either as a separate file or at the end of your main recording. And we'll then be able to stitch it into place with our musical duct tape. Okay, singers, now this is where the fun begins. First of all, the band will play through the tune. Then we all sing verse 1 together. As always with these videos, the click track will start in the bar where you come in and stop when you're not meant to be singing. Then, in verse 2, the gentlemen sing the first 4 lines, and the ladies are silent, and then we all sing the last 2 lines together. In verse 3 it's the other way round. The ladies only sing the first 4 lines, the gentlemen keep silent, and then we all join in for the last 2 lines. And in verse 4 the sopranos sing a descant composed by our musical editor Nicholas Markwell, and the rest of us sing in unison. Now after that, really importantly, keep the recording going and stay in tempo, and then you need to sing verse 2 again for the gentlemen, or verse 3 again for the ladies, but this time to a different part. Your second part for verse 2, gentlemen, or verse 3, ladies, will start on the guide track just after you've finished the last verse. It's only going to be the first 4 lines, so it will finish rather abruptly, but don't worry about that. Only stop recording when you've done that extra bit. That will then be added back to what you sang earlier to give an all-male and all-female 4-part choir. This is a little trick we've done a few times before, and I have to say the results are always absolutely amazing, and I'm looking forward to how this one sounds. Now with regard to dynamics, we need to introduce some drama because this is a passionate piece. So we will rise from softer to louder through lines 1 and 2 and through the last 2 lines of each verse. The guide track will only partly reflect this audibly, but the score will show the dynamic markings, so please remember to start softer and increase the volume through each of those pairs of lines. Now before we get on to the main recording, you may want to practice the less familiar bits. Sopranos, you may want to practice the descant, in which case go to the position shown on the screen, and all voices may want to practice their second part. So again, go to the position shown on the screen on your video, and there you can just sing through those unusual bits. And afterwards, come back to this point of the video and get ready to do the actual recording. And now we're all set. This is a dignified, moving and passionate hymn. Put all that into the way you sing and the way you play. A nice measured pace, plenty of power and intensity. Remember the dynamics, rising from soft to loud through the first and last pairs of lines in each verse. Band, please exaggerate this in this initial playthrough. Let us sing, Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm doth bind the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea.